kid. Hang on. You ready for an adventure?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is The Way. This will be my Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 6 trailer. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. I know there's a bunch of questions, too, after Episode 5, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen Episode 5 yet, either, but there's some new footage of Mando and Grogu going to what seems like a droids-only bar, which is meant to be a big joke on A New Hope, like, no droids served here in the cantina.
Hey, we don't serve their kind here.
What?
Your droids. They'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
But there's a ton of Easter eggs around the room, like zooming in hands all over the place. Pretty much all these droids are meant to be deep-cut Easter eggs for some of the movies or the previous series. There's a bunch of battle droids from Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars. Behind them in the far back, there's another super deep cut for A New Hope. This is actually CZ3. He was actually a secretary business communications droid, kind of like another type of protocol droid that had a twin CZ unit, CZ1, that was in the Jawa Sandcrawler deactivated. They got into a crash in the desert and got separated. That's how one wound up in the Jawa Sandcrawler. This other one actually wound up in Mos Eisley, walking past Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi when they arrived at the spaceport to go to the cantina. He was also played by Anthony Daniels, who normally plays 3PO in all the movies. I don't know who the white one is right next to them. He looks brand new, so he might have been introduced relatively recently in Batuu, the Disneyland theme park, or somewhere else very new. Right next to them, all shiny looking, is the RA-7 protocol droid, also from A New Hope, who was affectionately nicknamed the Death Star droid, because as you can guess, his model was used on the Death Star. They also featured this type of RA-7 droid a bunch of times in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. Right next to him is the exact same type of droid we just saw working for Greef Karga. His design is based on the original Ralph McQuarrie concept art for C-3PO, he's just a different color. I believe he's also meant to be another type of RQ protocol droid who was used a bunch during Star Wars Rebels on Lothal. They were also called Lothal protocol droids because Lothal was Ezra Bridger's home planet. A lot of the series took place there. Speaking of Star Wars Rebels and the Ahsoka series, we just got live-action Zeb. Dave Filoni and a bunch of the directors from Season 1 also cameoed too, because they played the New Republic pilots in Season 1. Along with Zeb, Ahsoka, Sabine Wren, most of the characters from Rebels, like the main characters, will be on the Ahsoka series, including Thrawn himself. That's why you're starting to see so many characters from Star Wars Rebels show up in live action on The Mandalorian, because they kind of use that as a trial run, sort of a teaser for the Ahsoka episodes, which are coming later this year. We'll probably get some kind of Ahsoka cameo scene before the end of the series. Dave Filoni helped write 3 episodes, including this one where Zeb cameoed, so he tends to write on episodes where they use characters that he originated. Most of the time when he helps write an episode, it's because he helped originate a character that they're using in that episode. So like every single time Ahsoka has appeared in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Dave Filoni has helped write on those episodes or directed them himself. Zooming in hands in the front, there are 2 R2 units, and then on the far right, his head is cut off a little bit in frame, but he looks just like Rex, the droid from Star Tours, who was also featured during The Book of Boba Fett as a repurposed gambling droid just manning one of the tables. The one in the back right, bartending, looks like a newer model version of EV-99. I think this is just meant to be a callback reference to earlier seasons of The Mandalorian in the Mos Eisley Cantina on Tatooine, where the original model EV-99 droid was being the bartender. There's also a couple other droids here on the left and on the right and up front that are just out of frame. We'll probably see when we get a much wider shot of the room. But just in general, all the droids in this room are meant to be super deep cuts. And like I said, a big callback to the whole joke that droids were not allowed in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Like, we don't serve their kind here, but now we're in a bar that seems like it's droids only. We don't serve flesh bags here. If you think you spotted any other droids in the footage in the trailer, just write it below in the comments. But like I said, there'll be more out of frame that we don't see in the actual trailer. The major other new footage is either a Mandalorian flashbacks to Mandalore itself before the Purge, because the dome and the grass here looks really nice, or because of what just happened at the end of Episode 5 with the armor tasking Bo-Katan with the mission of uniting all Mandalorian clans around the galaxy. This could be a scene in present day on another planet where another clan of Mandalorians have been living in a dome structure similar to the ones used like the Sundari Dome on Mandalore, because the ship in this footage is Bo-Katan's ship, but she's had the ship since the Clone Wars, so it could be set in the past. You can let me know in the comments if you think this is her in the middle of her mission in present day, visiting other Mandalorians, or is it meant to be a flashback to actual Mandalore before the Purge? We've seen Mandalorian flashbacks in previous seasons, like we saw Mando flashbacks to his childhood. I think eventually we'll see some flashbacks for Bo-Katan. Speaking of Bo-Katan's history, I know a lot of people now are wondering if the armor is secretly related to her. I've talked about this in previous episode videos because the whole idea is that we know Duchess Satine is her older sister, like much older sister. Bo-Katan was actually only meant to be about teenager, maybe a little bit older teenager during the Clone Wars. She looks much older than she actually is. That's why she's so close to Mando's age in present day. But their nephew was Korkie, meaning there had to be another sibling that we didn't know about. There could be another mystery sister out there. So the armor could have been Bo-Katan's mystery sister that they believed to be dead. Because just listening to them, it doesn't sound like Bo-Katan recognizes the armor's voice and doesn't know who she is, but the armor definitely knew who Bo-Katan was before she took her helmet off. I talked about this in my episode 5 video, but the actress who plays the armor, Emily Swallow, said that we're not going to find out everything about the armor's backstory this season. They're going to save a lot of those details for future seasons. But she's not meant to be sinister or trying to stab anyone in the back or seek power for herself. Like, she's not trying to steal the Darksaber or anything like that. She's just trying to help Bo-Katan and Mando become the fullest versions of themselves according to what they believe to be true Mandalorians. Like, she's trying to help lead them through the way to become true Mandalorians. All their people reunite because of this sign, the Mythosaur. So she's sort of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi in this situation, shepherding them along the way. Like, this is the way. I do not think that she is secretly Duchess Satine, though. I think that she's still dead. Because there's only 3 episodes left right now, I think we will see more of Bo-Katan actually going around rallying more Mandalorians to her cause, but I think they're saving the coming together of all Mandalorians, like their giant rally moment, till the finale when they all meet on Mandalore and wind up seeing the Mythosaur. A lot of theories about this too, because the whole idea is that to unite all Mandalorians, you need the Darksaber is critical to leading their people. Even the armor, who just tasked Bo-Katan with bringing them all together on Mandalore, went on and on about the importance of the Mythosaur, previously had told Mando how critical the Darksaber was to Mandalorian culture, and whoever leads them has to wield it. So will there be a twist with the finale, with all these Mandalorians kind of forming a truce and coming together under a unified banner? I don't think Bo-Katan is going to try and kill Mando and take it or anything like that, but I don't think that they're going to always see eye to eye either all the time. They've had a couple really cool team-up moments so far, but the only way she'd be able to get it from him outright would be beating him in one-on-one honorable combat. But since the armor went on and on about how Bo-Katan was someone who had lived in both worlds, I think Grogu is also meant to be an example of that, a character who's lived in 2 different worlds, the world of the Jedi and the world of Mandalorians. And I think they also want to pay off Mando riding the Mythosaur because they teased that back in Season 1, like, you're a Mandalorian, your people rode the Mythosaur.
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great Mythosaur. Surely you can ride this young foal.
And so he shall, eventually. I think it's also possible that Bo-Katan and Mando will lead the Mandalorians together because I don't think it's as simple as one person leading all of them, doing everything by themselves. Like Grogu, meant to be a nexus of the Mandalorian culture and the Jedi. He's essentially the next Tar Vizsla, the next Mandalorian Jedi. And Tar Vizsla is the person who created the Darksaber in the first place, like this whole symbol of their culture. If Grogu's tiny little hands were just a little bit bigger, I'd say he'd be the one to wield the Darksaber and unite them all, but he's way too little right now. So I think he's just going to be a symbol of the union of the Force and the Mandalorians and them all coming together, these 2 very different cultures forming a union. Also very important, Grogu is the only one right now that we know of who can communicate with the Mythosaur through the Force, so they need him for that anyway. So don't be surprised if their little family of 3 that's forming this season winds up leading all Mandalorians together, like Space Dad, with Mom, and their child Grogu, and the Darksaber, all riding a Mythosaur. Now, I know there's still tons of questions about the teaser for Moff Gideon at the end of Episode 5. Is there an evil group of Mandalorians out there that broke him out because of the Beskar alloy? Or is the Beskar alloy just from his Dark Troopers? Because remember, in Season 1, they teased that the Empire had stolen a ton of the Mandalorians' Beskar. Moff Gideon sounds like he used part of that to create the Dark Troopers to give them super strong armor. But here's the thing, Carson Teva found fragments of Beskar embedded in the bulkhead here. Normal Beskar wouldn't break like this. It looks kind of like the Dark Troopers' armor, because their armor was Beskar alloy, and Carson Teva actually called that out. I'm finding traces of Beskar alloy. Pure Beskar steel, as we saw, is highly resistant to lightsabers. That's why Luke Skywalker was able to slice through the Dark Trooper so easily, because it was just Beskar alloy, like a less pure version of Beskar. So I do also like the theory that Moff Gideon also left behind that fragment of Beskar to throw people off his scent and make him think that the Mandalorians broke him out, so the New Republic will be worried about the Mandalorians and not thinking about him. They'll be too distracted. Which lines up with what Carson Teva warned Colonel Tuttle about.
Because I'm hearing Moff Gideon never made it to trial. There's something dangerous happening out there. All these events, it's not a coincidence.
There's something weird going on in the Outer Rim. You're not going to realize what's going on until it's too late if you don't start paying attention now. That's meant to be a big teaser for Moff Gideon and Grand Admiral Thrawn's forces eventually rallying in the Outer Rim. Which is also why Elia Kane wanted them to stay away from Navarro, why she was trying to get Colonel Tuttle to not send any aid there. We don't want the New Republic snooping around in that part of the galaxy. I've also seen a lot of theories, too, about Moff Gideon challenging either Bo-Katan or Mando in one-on-one combat for the Darksaber and trying to win some of the Mandalorians to his cause that way, the same way that Darth Maul did it during the Clone Wars. Even if it was not a group of Mandalorians that did break Moff Gideon out, there are bad groups of Mandalorians out there, like the Maul-Delorians, the Mandalorian Super Commandos. We could wind up seeing versions of them in future seasons, if not this season. Part of the idea with Bo-Katan going around uniting all Mandalorians is that there will be some groups who just really do not like the other groups of Mandalorians. Like, none of them all get along very well. I've got a couple other bonus videos that I'm working on this week, but my full episode 6 video will post next Wednesday after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everyone click here for my Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 5 video, and click here for all my other Mandalorian episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and this is the way.